Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. And first of all, I want to, give, great credit to Stanford. That's an outstanding football team we just played. And David, I have a ton of respect for him and the way that they run their program. And I thought our guys came prepared to play an outstanding football team and really stuck to our plan. This started in January when we came back together after a long off season that none of us were happy with or pleased with, and quite frankly, bitterly disappointed about, and started talking about what we need to do to change back to the culture that we've had here, over my time. And the credit goes to our seniors first and foremost. They've done a terrific job leading, a terrific job getting this team prepared. And then obviously to our strength staff, Jay Hooten leads that group, and there was no doubt we were in great shape today, well-conditioned, ready to play. And then Tori Lindley, our great athletic trainer, not to see. And we had a great plan for today. We expected heat. We expected, the humidity to be the way it was. And, I want to thank Mother Nature for last week's weather in Chicago. I thought that gave us a great chance to enact a plan, and Tori, his staff, Jay, his staff, and then obviously, our coaching staff to come up with a really good plan. But, proud of our guys. As I told them in the locker room, this is, stop one, on the train. So let's not act like we haven't been here before. So, look forward to watching the way that we mature here throughout the course of this week. We've just beaten a very good football team. And how are we going to handle a short week and preparing for a team coming in here next week that has a lot of young men from Chicagoland and a lot of young men that, are going to be stoked up to play a Big Ten opponent. So proud of the guys for the win and, looking forward to cleaning up the things that we made mistakes on. So how about some questions, please?
Pat, after that first Stanford drive, did you make any key adjustments on the defense from there?
No, absolutely no. There was nothing that we needed to adjust. Obviously, I think it's hard defensively to really truly get up to the speed of the game in training camp. You're so used to who you're playing against, and we had, if my recollection's right, Larry, we had opportunities to get off the field on that drive, and we didn't. And that was probably what we were most disappointed on, was our inability to get off the field on third down.
Fitz, any sense that maybe you got him by surprise a little bit in terms of Clayton's running ability? And he certainly made some throws that could have been interceptions that weren't. Evaluate all that, please.
Well, I have no idea what you're talking about Clayton's ability to run, so I'm not going to. So I guess I'll keep that to myself. I think he, from a standpoint of who he is as a young man, I think that's what you all saw today. I mean, he made some really good plays. He made some decisions he's probably like to have back. And he'll learn and really grow from this. And I thought he played outstanding. I talked to him earlier in the week about not trying to outplay a fifth-year senior by just doing what we do. And through that, he outplayed a fifth-year senior. That's what I saw today. I thought he stayed within the framework of our offense. I don't think he tried to do too much. And I think that's a great win for him. From a standpoint of where's he going to go from here and where are we going to go? We got a lot of work to do, a lot of things to clean up, especially, there were a couple of drives offensively that we really hurt ourselves, and we got to get that fixed in our game.
Does that stand out in your mind?
I think just the way I'm not going to nitpick every play quite yet without watching the tape, Teddy, because maybe there's somebody else open that he could have just taken the nickel to get the first down. But I like the fact that he's being aggressive. I like the fact that he liked the matchup on the outside and took the one-on-one shot. And feel free to keep playing us in man. We've got our weapons back now with Christian and Miles and Danny, and Austin Carr played a big role. And then with the guys in the backfield. So, I thought Mick and the offensive staff had a great plan. I thought we brought Clayton into this game with the right kind of plan to get him going. And then, obviously the credit goes to him. And now let's see how he handles the next challenge, from a standpoint of a game week. So I'm sure he'll be fine.
What were some of your primary concerns, or what were you kind of focused in on when you looked at the tape of Stanford heading into this? And how do you feel your team responded to those focal points?
Yeah, well, we talked about this game, and every football game is the same way, but this game for sure was going to needed to be one up front. And, that's what I saw from the boundary. I thought that there was a dominant performance by our defensive line. It looked like we controlled the line of scrimmage on every single play, defensive line-wise. And I thought our offensive line did some positive things. And, obviously for us, when you look at our ability to run the ball for 225 yards and to hold them to 85, that was a dominant performance by us on the line of scrimmage. Now, perfect, no, but dominant from a standpoint of a team that we have the utmost respect for, the way that they have always played physical, the way that they've always come downhill and run the ball offensively, and then the same thing defensively. They were one of the most stout defensive fronts in the country, not only last year but a bunch of years. So we talked to the guys about dominating up front to make this be a statement game about where we're at right now so that we can get better and improve and make it a statement game about recruiting. And I thought our guys made that kind of statement today against a very, very good football team.
Going back to Clayton, what have you been telling him throughout the week and especially on today about making mistakes and getting over the mistakes? Yeah, well, we talk around here a lot about you just trusting yourself. You guys see us hit that board, and that's all we talk about it. When you become a senior, it kind of becomes a broken record, but it works. Just trust what we do, trust how we've prepared. And then it's our job to make sure we don't ask them to do too much. And I thought Mick and the offensive staff had a great plan today. Not asking them to do too much, not overloading them, especially with a defense that was as multiple as Stanford. Very, very multiple defense, and I thought he handled it very, very well.
Coach, you mentioned in the preseason that you wanted your team to take on the personality of your secondary, your defensive line. I mean, how with those two units standing out today, how do you think your team did that?
I think test and challenge number one, I think it was a success. Yeah, I really do. And now, especially looking at some of the things pass rush-wise with our defensive line, we got some things to clean up. But it looked like we controlled the line of scrimmage from the defensive front standpoint. And, quite frankly, we expected some more play-action pass over the top, and I think they only took one shot there. Same play. It's same concept. They attack the safety on a post that they ran multiple times against Notre Dame last year. So expected that to come, and, thank goodness Godwin won on that play.
Coach, you've made a point in the past about the fact that there are no preseason games, no exhibitions, so it's hard to maybe measure where your team is. To what extent were you pleasantly surprised or whatever based on what happened today? Yeah, I thought our defense, especially up front in the secondary, and, Anthony played a great game from an individual statistic standpoint, and he's just really coming into his own. But, I think our defense really dominated today. It was probably one of the best performances I've seen our group play, top to bottom against a ranked team, maybe in my time. So, Hank and the defensive staff had a great plan. They've got great players on offense. I mean, they don't have good players; they have great players. And hold them to 85 yards rushing and 240 total yards. That's a pretty dominant performance by our defense. Proud of them.
For your after Walker appeared to have the interception there late in the fourth, for your defense to respond and get the pick on the goal line, how big was that for them to bounce back when that could have opened the door for Stanford? Yeah, well, the guys talked about it all week. We've talked about it. Some of the areas that we needed to really improve is when I talked about getting back to our standard, and our standard around here is we for whatever reason, we play in close games, and when we've been very good, we win close games, and we finish the job. And, that's what the guys were talking about in the locker room afterwards. It's a new team, and, we know how to finish, and the defense finished the job. So tough call on Anthony. From my vantage point, it looked like he was uncatchable. But, good call. I thought the officiating was awesome. That was a great crew. They were terrific. Communication was outstanding. Appreciate those guys. Never, it's when you get out of conference play, we had Pac-12 officials. I've never seen that crew before, so they were excellent. Hats off to them.
You had a couple dominant defensive performances last year too against Penn State and Wisconsin. What makes you think? But it was like sort of inconsistent with games like Iowa. What makes you think this can be what you see from this defense all year this year? Because
that's what they did today. That's all I got, man. That's all I got.
Last year, I had Walker kick that 49-yard field goal. It seems like you really got some confidence. Maybe from the Notre Dame game, you think you really got a lot of confidence now in the place-kicking game?
Yeah, you talking about Jack Mitchell? Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, absolutely. Jack, I think, is starting to kind of come into his own a little bit. We talk every day kind of how we're feeling. Again, I thought we had a great plan with our specialists today. We did not want McCaffrey to touch the football, and I think he had negative yards returning. So, mission accomplished. We fit a couple plays incorrectly on our kickoff coverage that we'll be better at next time. But I thought from a standpoint of the way that we were in the kicking game today, I thought we were pretty good.
Fitz, you mentioned early on that you had a plan anticipating the heat and the humidity.
Yeah.
What was that plan?
Yeah, Monday, I'm not going to bore you with everything, but, Monday was our Tuesday practice, and it was hot here, if you remember. And we really hit the gas on the guys for about the first 12 or 13 periods of practice and just went hard. And the guys responded and came along with us. And then our plan was if they came along with us, then we were going to take the pads off of them for the last 20, last 30 minutes of practice and have great focus. And we did that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we explained that plan to the guys. And when it was time to go, let's go. And let's get it as game-like as we possibly could. And then, obviously to get our guys' legs back for today. And I thought we looked and played pretty fast, with all things considered. So hopefully it's a win-win from a standpoint of acclimation. This week we needed this week, especially with the weather the way it was in camp. It was pretty cool, and sweatshirt weather. And now to have this to get prepared for today, and a couple weeks from now we're going down to Tobacco Road. It's going to be hot again. So hopefully we can draw strength upon the plan.
Going back to the first Stanford drive, how important? They're down at the 9-yard line, and they run the reverse against the flow, and Tyler Lancaster stays home and makes it.
Yep.
Does a play like that change the momentum of a game, or?
Yeah, maybe a little bit too early. Maybe a little bit too early to tell. But how about Tyler? Big 300-pounder out there in space. I'm just happy for him. Like I said, I think starting off camp, I believe this. We have really good depth in the defensive line, and to see a young man like him, step up as such a young guy, the future is bright for him. I'm assuming we played 9 because we had 9 ready to go. But I'm assuming. I haven't talked to Marty about the rotation where it went, but we had 9 ready to go, and we got a 10th on the flight deck. So we'll see how it plays out.
So most importantly, it's safe to assume you'll be wearing shorts next week?
That's up to Kurt Shaner. Kurt Dog makes those decisions. He's been here longer than you've been alive. So Kurt Dog wants us to wear shorts. We'll wear shorts. So appreciate Under Armour.
You say, though, for real, is that the first time you've ever done it, and why did you choose to wear shorts?
Again, we've had a plan all week that we want to do an act. So that's it. Talk to Kurt Dog. He will never be in front of the media. So.
The Stanford players had said in the locker room about how poised the quarterback was, and they were a little surprised feeling on how he did.
Yeah. I've been blessed to be around him now for a couple of years. So, and I've said it, and he just backs it up. He's really just unflappable. He's really just calm and cool. He doesn't get too high, too low. I mean, did he even do anything after he scored? I couldn't see him. Did he? Yeah, right. Did he do anything? I mean, that's not him. Yeah, did he? Did he look up? Yeah, well, I'm not surprised that he gave thanks. He's that type of young man. He's from a great family. And then I think we have 2 other guys who can play quarterback too, that I'm sure are going to come out next week and continue to compete and push Clayton and continue to be prepared if their opportunity presents itself. So, proud of him in his opening game. It's just going to continue to get tougher. That's the way college football works, but great first start for him.
We see it quite a bit where Power 5 teams will start off with maybe an FCS opponent, somebody a little lesser. Yeah. You guys start off with these guys today. I mean, do you learn more about your team in this situation as opposed to maybe those other ones?
Yeah, no, I can't speak for anybody else. Jim Phillips, our great director of athletics, and myself, we set a plan about our schedule when we first got together. Number one, we want to play a challenging schedule by, number one, playing academic comparables. The Stanfords, the Notre Dames, the Dukes, Boston College in the past, Vanderbilt, so on and so forth. And we've kind of had a plan moving forward. And, this was going to be a 6-game series, but when we've gone to 9 games in both the Pac and the Big Ten, we had to change that to now a 2-game series. But these are the types of teams that we should be playing. We learn a lot about ourselves. Absolutely. I'll go back to even when I was playing. We played Notre Dame in the opener. So, our expectation is to go 1-0 each week. And if you want to get yourself in position to win a championship, you've got to test your team. You have to test your team. And, I'm really proud of the way the guys started off the season. But, again, this didn't happen by accident. And this wasn't an upset from a standpoint that, we respected Stanford as ranked 21st in the country and all the things that were talked about. But, there's no reason why anybody should have talked about us. We had no evidence from the way that we finished last year. But we had a lot of evidence the way that we worked this offseason. And that's why you worry about what you can control and you focus inward. And the guys have done a nice job with that. So, again, I want to see now, how's our leadership and how mature are we going to be to get ready for next week? Because I think that's a bigger challenge, quite frankly, right now.
Coach, you said a couple weeks ago that going into last season, you kind of knew that you guys weren't ready. And this season, a lot of the same factors were at play without the bowl practices and coming off kind of a disappointing year. So do you have any sense of what was different this year from last year coming into the season?
Yeah, I mean, no question it was the health of our team. Last year, I'm not going to tell you who and I'm not going to tell you how much, but, I mean, we had so many guys out going into game week, And that hurt our 2 weeks, really when we start to try to develop the team, in Kenosha. And then the week that we're back here, kind of week 2 and 3 of camp, the freshmen have evolved that we think might have a chance to play. And then the varsity guys, that maybe didn't have the role they wanted coming out of spring practice step up. Now we got a pretty good idea for a 2-week kind of crucible to bring the team really, truly together. And we didn't have that at all a year ago. I mean, that was non-existent. So to have the health, have the competitive depth, have the competition like we've been able to have in practice, I think that, we've been able to really push the guys. And, again, the credit goes to the way that they prepared.
Coach, have you given Anthony Walker more responsibility this year now as a more experienced starting middle linebacker?
Yeah, I mean, right now, Henry, with the way that we do things, our secondary checks our coverages, our linebacker with, our Mike checks our front. And so I wouldn't say we've put more on his plate, but I would say with the experience that we have on defense, we can put more on everybody's plate, if that makes sense. So, great plan by Hank and a great job by the assistants, teaching the scheme and the plan. And I don't think we had a lot of mental mistakes today defensively. And, I think we tackled well for an opener. I think that was a pretty darn good tackling performance.
Anything else for Coach? All right, thank you.
Great. Have a great holiday weekend. Thanks. Go Cats.